The dragons of Earthsea, also known as the children of Segoi, people of the West, and the eldest, are Goliath lizard-like fire-breathing creatures. They are known to only speak in a language named the Old Speech, or the True Speech. This is the language of magic, from which all known languages share their heritage. Old Speech is known as spell words to some, as this language is the language of spells, enchantments, and invocations. Only dragons may lie when speaking this language, as they have mastered it like no other. Most dragons are jealous creatures. They are quick to anger, will not respond to orders, and have no beings higher than them. The only way to control a dragon is to know its true name. If this were to happen, a dragon would be under a spell, and will be compelled to comply with whoever is speaking to it. Some believe that looking into the eyes of a dragon would anger it, and thus, any who are unfortunate enough to see a dragon are compelled to look away from them. Dragons see humans as foolish, weak, and short-lived. Hardly any would dare anger one on purpose, and certainly would never engage in battle with them. Dragons are physically larger than any other living creature. A dragon known as Orm Embar was described as 90 feet from tip to tip of his wings, and the length of his body was no less. As dragons are so large, they are physically the strongest creatures to live. They also possess razor-sharp teeth and claws, and could easily chew or tear their way through even the most sturdy of armors. Dragons are also known to outlive humans by several hundred years. These long years allow a dragon to gain a greater understanding of the world, and thus, dragons are among the most intelligent creatures to exist. Dragons have barely any weaknesses, though rare humans known as dragon lords are able to communicate with them, allowing such people to find the dragon's true name and send it away. The only known ways to destroy a dragon is by employing the magic of great wizards, or having another dragon do battle with its own kin. Dragons are also known to have less than adequate vision, as their eyes are on separate sides of their faces, not allowing them to see perfectly ahead. Dragons and humans were at one point the same people, splitting off from each other in ancient times. It is due to this that 1 or 2 dragon humans can be born into each generation. This dragon human can change between human and dragon form, allowing them to live in both worlds. Dragons usually live in the westernmost isles of the Earthsea archipelago. They also live in a place named the Other Wind, a timeless place that dragons inhabit in body and humans may only inhabit in spirit. There are also smaller dragons, around 1 meter in length, who occupy the mountains on Her. They have only wing stubs and hiss without speaking. They are considered sacred animals by the humans there and are routinely sacrificed to. There are also tiny dragon-like creatures named Hareki that live on Ifish. They reside in oak trees and consume insects, worms, and eggs. They are no larger than a human hand. There are some dragons of note, such as a Maud, a male dragon, who is referred to as the chief among dragons. The dragon hovered its long wings, beating quick and short like a hovering hawk's, but these wings were 50 feet from tip to tip, and as they beat they made a sound like kettle drums, or rattles of brass. As she came closer to it, a little curl of fire escaped from the dragon's long-toothed, open mouth. Kalasin, the oldest of the dragons, described as immense, scarred, iron-black, with red wings and yellow eyes. Its head, the colour of iron, stained as with red rust at nostril and eye socket and jowl, hung facing him, almost over him. It did not move. It might have been crouching there for hours, or for years, or for centuries. It was carven of iron, shaped from rock, but the eyes he dared not look into, the eyes like oil coiling on water, like yellow smoke behind glass. The opaque, profound, and yellow eyes watched Aaron. Orm Embar, an ancient dragon and the mightiest dragon that ever lived, was described as having wings that were 90 feet from tip to tip. This dragon was defeated by the necromancer Cobb. 90 feet maybe was he, from tip to tip of his vast membranous wings that shone in the new sunlight like gold-shot smoke, and the length of his body was no less, but lean, arched like a greyhound, clawed like a lizard, and snake-scaled. Along with narrow spine went a row of jagged darts, like rose thorns in shape, but at the hump of its back, 3 feet in height, and so diminishing that the last at the tail tip was no longer than the blade of a little knife. These thorns were grey, and the scales of the dragon were iron grey, but there was a glitter of gold in them. His eyes were green and slitted. Orm Irian, the dragon form of the dragon-human Irian, she claimed to be the sister of Orm Embar, and was a dragon of great power, described as red bronze, with red gold-veined wings, gold flanks, a gold-mailed red-horned head, and huge amber eyes. As she went farther from them, they saw her, all of them, the great gold-mailed flanks, the spiked coiling tail, the talons, the breath that was bright fire. Then with a rattle like the shaking of sheets of brass, the wide veined wings opened, and the dragon sprung up into the air. And Yevord, an ancient dragon that laid waste to the west of Osgil, he was driven back by the wizard Elt. This dragon was capable of shape-changing, and lived in human form for some years. The mage Jed knew his true name, and therefore forced him and his offspring to not fly eastwards. When he was all afoot, his scaled head, spike-crowned and triple-tongued, rose higher than the broken tower's height, and his taloned forefeet rested on the rubble of the town below. His scales were grey-black, catching the daylight like broken stone. Lean as a hound he was, and huge as a hill. Jed stared in awe. There was no song or tale could prepare the mind for this sight. The dragons of Earthsea are immensely powerful creatures, full of wisdom and anger. They are both feared and respected in the world, and only a few dare ever to oppose them.